Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. If it is your first time here, my name is Han and welcome to the channel. I am so excited for today's video because we're going to be talking all things productivity. We're going to be debunking some myths about productivity, and I will be basically telling you 5 major habits that have really helped me to stay productive every single day. Of course, I still have my rot days, but for the most part, help me to remain productive and achieve all of my goals and stay successful. And I believe that these 5 habits will help you. A lot of these habits are backed by neuroscience. And to give you guys a bit of a background, I graduated with a specialist in psychology, a minor in biology, and I did my master's in occupational therapy. So I have spent many years studying the brain. So I feel quite knowledgeable talking about this, and I have a lot of passion talking about the brain. Growing up, I genuinely wanted to be a brain surgeon, but that didn't work out because it wasn't for me. But I love the brain. I love learning about the brain and how the brain works. So I think that this video is going to be so helpful. And when you leave this video, you will take these habits and build them for yourself, inshallah. So if this is the type of video that you're looking for, make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss another video. And without further ado, let's get this video started. I truly believe that the things that we've been taught about when it comes to motivation are either unrealistic or completely harmful. Productivity is not about waking up every single day at 5 o'clock in the morning, making sure that you're drinking celery juice, journaling every single day. It's not about having these color-coded planners. That's not what productivity is. And you probably clicked on this video because you do have things that you care about and you do want to figure out how to get your life together. But every single time you try to get your life together, you feel like you're spiraling, things start to get in the way, you start to feel burnt out, and then you give up and start all over again. The reason I could talk about this so freely is because I know what it's like to be in that cycle, because I was in that cycle myself. I still had seasons where I felt completely overwhelmed, distracted, and constantly felt behind. But what changed everything for me wasn't willpower. It was learning how to work with my brain and not against it. And these are habits that I've built up that have not only helped me with staying productive, but have allowed me to also be kind with myself while I'm doing it. Tip number 1 is to stop relying on motivation and to work on building a system that saves you. I used to wake up in the morning with so much on my plate and these to-do lists that were never ending, and I barely checked off half of the things that I had on my list, and I would feel so overwhelmed and anxious with what my day was supposed to look like. And before the day even started, my brain had already checked out. Then I would pick up my phone and scroll and scroll and scroll for about an hour and tell myself, you know what, let me just ease into the day. I don't want to do too much to myself. And then suddenly it would be 12 o'clock and I had not done anything. So in that moment when I was experiencing that, it really felt like laziness. But the reality is I was dealing with decision fatigue. Now, decision fatigue is something a lot of us go through, but we don't know we're experiencing it, and we think that we're actually lazy when that's not the case at all. Our brain is actually broken up into different segments, and this part of our brain, which is right at the front, is called the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex of your brain is responsible for handling things like your focus, your planning, impulse control, but it also has a limited fuel tank. The more choices that you throw at your brain, the faster that it will burn out. This is why you find that by the time it reaches the afternoon, you are less likely to work out, to eat well, or to get anything meaningful done in your day. It's not necessarily just about having discipline, because yes, that's important, but it's also about protecting your mental energy. What that means is creating systems. Now, when I talk about systems are what you create that will remove the need for you to actually make those decisions, because it becomes embedded into your routine. When you create systems, you're removing the need to decide and you're making it easier for you to act. So for me, for example, this looked like many different things. For example, during a work week, I would meal prep on the Sunday so I wouldn't have to think about making lunch during the week. So for 3 days or 4 days of that, my meal was already prepped and I wouldn't have to think about or make the decision of having to cook, because we know being an adult is not fun and having to decide what to eat is also a lot of pressure on our brains. There's an amazing book that I read last year called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I highly recommend you guys check it out because there are so many tips there on how to build these healthy habits. But one of the things he said is you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So when we talk about routines, most people think about actions. For example, I go to the gym, I wake up early, I journal before I go to bed. That is a routine. But behind every routine that actually sticks, there's a system. A system is a framework that makes your routine possible. It makes it reliable, repeatable, and resistant to burnout. So let's break this down in a way that's easy to digest. A routine is what you do, and a system is how and why it works. For example, a routine is I go to the gym every single day at 7 o'clock o'clock in the morning. A system is I lay out my clothes at night so that when I wake up in the morning, it's ready for me. I follow a workout plan, I track my progress, and if I miss a day, I will back it up by doing a workout plan at home. Do you see the difference here? The routine is the habit that you're building, as the system is what supports that habit and supports that routine. The reason why systems are so important in life, you guys, because it reduces that decision fatigue tremendously. It also reduces the need for motivation. You're not relying on motivation. Now you have discipline because that system has helped to drive that movement. It also helps you with creating consistency. When you have consistency in your life, what drives consistency is having structure. And it will also allow you to see that long-term success is actually possible because you're building on that routine every single day. There's also this concept in psychology called cognitive offloading. When you write things down, it actually helps to free up the memory in your brain. I have this empty notebook with blank sheets of paper, and I will literally do a brain dump. Every single morning when I wake up, I always have this right beside me on my work table, and I will literally brain dump. When I have a thought on my mind or something I want to get done or just anything, I will do a brain dump. When you write things down or you create structure, it will free up that working memory in your brain and relax that prefrontal cortex from doing too much. And when your brain isn't overloaded, it's going to perform much, much better, which means when you are working, you're able to work more efficiently. So what you will do today is I want you to choose just one part of your day that feels chaotic, just one. Is it your morning that feels chaotic? Is it thinking about making your meals that feel chaotic? Is it your work day that feels chaotic? Your schedule for studying for school? Whatever it is, I want you to think of one thing and think about how you can make it more simple for yourself. How can you simplify this task? If you are stressed out about studying, right? What is it that you can do to simplify that task so you're less stressed out about it? Making fewer decisions will allow your systems to work for you. So think about that, because I promise you, building good systems will increase your productivity tremendously and make you feel so good. You won't feel as sluggish and your brain will feel free. Tip number 2 is that you are not lazy. You are not lazy. You are not lazy. You are not lazy. Please get that out of your brain. You are not lazy. Unless you actually are and you claim being lazy. That's a different story. But you are not lazy. Your brain just needs momentum and it needs movement. I just wish that everyone knew that motivation is not this like spark that comes in your brain and something that magically appears, right? It is a chemical process that happens in your brain and you can actually engineer it. One of the things I love learning about are something called neurotransmitters in your brain. There is something called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter in your brain that is actually linked to motivation, but it is not triggered when you finish something. Instead, it is triggered when you start to actually make progress. There's a neuroscientist named Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he calls this dopaminergic momentum. And this is the idea that your brain will actually reward effort when it detects some type of forward movement. So even tiny little movement, that neurotransmitter will then be released if that movement is very tiny. So even if you're just progressing and you haven't actually done anything yet. That's why when you dread doing something for so many days and then once you actually finally start doing it, you think, oh, you know what, this isn't actually so bad. Like I can do this thing. The smaller the steps are, the more likely you are to actually start and it will feel less overwhelming. Actually starting is the secret. For example, a lot of people message me asking me, how do I start a business? The issue is not actually getting to that thing because the end goal is there. The problem is actually starting. And the reason why you don't start is because it feels so overwhelming. It feels like a big picture thing and you don't know what step to take to actually start. You just have to start and take tiny steps to get you there because those tiny steps will build that momentum and eventually you will get to your end goal. So your brain just needs momentum, and to build that momentum, you break your goal into tiny steps. Tip number 3, you have to learn to time block, because when you learn to time block, you are also respecting your time and respecting your energy. One thing I had to learn very quickly is that a to-do list, for me personally, just increases my anxiety. So for example, like I said, I used to wake up in the morning and I would write an endless list of things that would need to get done. Like I'm not joking, there would literally be 12 to 15 things that would have to get done. Everything that I've put are huge tasks that can't get done in 5 hours. Like it's just, there's just no way. And if I only completed 3 things out of the 12, I felt like a failure. I actually didn't complete anything because the list was unfinished. When you don't have a timeline with your to-do list and you put that expectation on yourself to complete everything in one day, all that will do is create disappointment and make yourself believe that it is not possible to achieve these things or get these things done. What has actually changed my entire relationship with productivity is something called time blocking. Time blocking is when you schedule when you're going to do something, not just what you're going to be doing. This actually works really well for people who also struggle with ADHD. So when you actually respect those time blocks that you've created for yourself, your brain is able to relax because it knows what to look forward to for that day. And then your brain will also be able to relax because it doesn't have to sit there and make a million and one decisions in terms of what the day is going to look like. Now, in terms of tools of what you can use for time blocking, Google Calendar is amazing. Notion works for some people as well. You know, you find a system that works for you. So here's an example of how I would structure my day when it comes to time blocking. Obviously, this is based on what works for you and what your days look like. Everybody's days look completely different. Time blocking during the week, so I know ahead of time or 3 days ahead of time what my days are going to look like. And it just makes it easier because I can just pull up my calendar and I know exactly what I'm doing from day to day, and my brain doesn't have to think. My brain is literally relaxed. But you want to respect and train your brain to know that working hours are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Whatever that schedule looks for you. Don't try to convince yourself and say, you know what, I'm really good with my workflow right now. I think I'm just going to keep working until like 8 p.m. No, I purposely block time for rest. Your brain needs time to recover from all the work that you put it through throughout the day. It is very important to protect your time, but also respect your time. And when you allow your body to rest, you will have a more functional day the next day. And also you're building that routine in your mind to know that after a certain time, you do not work. You hang out with friends, you do hobbies that you enjoy, you take care of your family, you do whatever it is that feeds you. And then you start your work block again in the next day so that you rest, your brain can relax and gather all that information and soak it all up so that the next day you're at your best. I'm saying this also for students. Y'all, I was a student for a majority of my life, okay? And what worked for me was not all-nighters. I can proudly say I have never, ever, ever pulled an all-nighter while I was in university, and I graduated with a high distinction status, one of the top in my entire cohort. Now, I'm not saying that to brag, okay? That is an accomplishment. It is a huge accomplishment. But the reason I was able to do that was because I always allowed my brain to rest and actually absorb all of the information that I was giving it. So after a certain time, I made sure to sleep early and wake up early. When I went to bed, I knew that my brain was going to be storing all that information, and I knew that it would be at its peak when I woke up the next morning and I was able to study. Let your brain rest. If you want your brain to remember things, if you want your brain to work well for work, for studying, for whatever it is that you're doing, let your brain rest. Tip number 4, productivity is a reflection of who you believe you are. There is something that no planner, no productivity app, nothing will ever give you, and that is the belief in your identity. You don't become productive by forcing yourself to become productive. You become productive when you are someone who believes that you can be productive and actually shows up for herself. When your habits and the things that you want in your life actually align with who you are, those habits will stick. For example, when you build up the habits of praying 5 times a day, those habits align with your identity as a Muslim, right? So you're going to maintain those habits, whether you like it or not, you're going to stick with that thing. For example, instead of saying things like, I want to work out, what you say to yourself is, I am someone who honors my body, who takes care of herself, who cares about my health, so I will be working out today. It's really all about having that mindset shift and respecting yourself and respecting the things that you want for yourself, right? Our brains are wired to protect consistency, and our brains love consistency. When I started to act like someone who was focused, when I started to respect my time, even when I didn't actually fully believe it, but I was acting it, I swear to you, my brain knew what was up. I would sit at my desk during my focus block and actually showed up, even if I was feeling a bit sluggish, I wasn't feeling 100%. And then eventually my brain caught up with me and said, no, you're doing the work. Like, this is your work block. You are doing the work. I tricked my brain into believing that I'm that girl. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I tricked myself into believing that I could get that work done and did. Okay, so it's really that simple. Just really think about, why is productivity important for you? Why do you want to be productive? And what habits do you want to maintain and stick to that really align with your identity and who you are as a person? Your identity is the strongest force behind actually changing your behavior. So if you know yourself, it will be so much easier to be productive. When we see people who are up at like 7 a.m. going for a run, it's because they honor and respect their bodies. And the reason they're able to do it so often is because they've tricked their brain into believing that this is who they are. So they're able to maintain that consistency, and our brains love consistency. The more we do something and show up for ourselves, the more natural it becomes for us, that it becomes second nature to wake up in the morning and go for a run. I hope that makes sense. I want you to write this down. I am the kind of person who blank. What kind of a person are you? And then do the small things to actually prove it to yourself, and repeat that process every single day. Your habits eventually will catch up to your identity and how you view yourself and who you believe you are. Last but not least, tip number 5 is that self-compassion is your secret weapon. I'm going to say this as clear as I possibly can. You cannot shame yourself into consistency. It just doesn't work that way. I know exactly what it is like to miss a day or a week, and then you immediately start to spiral out and you think that your life is over and that you have no order in your life. And then you start to feel really guilty and you try to overcompensate. How do you overcompensate? You set these really huge goals and then you crash again. And then you set these really huge goals and then you achieve some of them and then you crash again. And then it becomes this cycle. What science says is that when you are stressed, when you are anxious, when you start to feel ashamed, your brain will enter a state where it starts to feel threatened. And this will heighten something in your brain called the amygdala. When the amygdala is triggered, not only is it hijacking your nervous system and you start to feel kind of like in that fight or flight mode, but your prefrontal cortex, which is the brain that part of the brain that we talked about that's responsible for planning, for focusing, it will start to shut down. In other words, when you have a lot of pressure, it makes you less productive. Now, hold on. Because I know there's going to be people who say, well, when I procrastinate, I just find that I create my best work and I'm more productive. And you can also be just as productive by putting less pressure on yourself. You can also create the same level of work by putting less pressure on yourself. Why allow your body to increase in that state of stress? Why put your body through that and potentially make yourself susceptible to autoimmune diseases and all these issues because you're constantly letting yourself wait till the very last minute to get things done? Don't do that. It is so important for you to have a level of self-compassion and to be kind to yourself. And the reason that I say this is because there has been research that has shown that when you are kind to yourself after you've failed at something, you are actually more likely to be consistent in the long run because you're giving yourself that hug and you're also not letting fear cause you to fall off your tracks and make you believe that this is where you're meant to be, that you're meant to be a failure. Compassion creates a space for safety, and safety will allow your brain to focus. So if you've had a bad day, you felt like you were supposed to be productive today, it didn't go the way that you had planned, you feel like you're putting yourself down, I want you to really work on forgiving yourself because like I said, we are human beings. We already have so much on our plates and it can be very exhausting and we're expected to do so much. Like when I tell you guys, I've talked about this so many times of how we have like only 24 hours in a day and are expected to do like 50 different things. And now I'm hearing about how you have to massage your hair for 2 hours for it to be long. Like who has time? Who has 2 hours in their day? An extra 2 hours to just sit there and massage their hair. Like it's just, we're expected to do so much. And it is a lot easier for us to fall in the trap of feeling like we're failures when we don't get these things done. But being compassionate and kind to yourself is the least that you can do and will actually allow you to become that version of yourself that you've always envisioned. And you know yourself that you will be consistent in the long run. It's just a fall. It is fine. You pick yourself back up and you try again. So I want you to remind yourself that you are still in the stage of becoming and you can try again tomorrow. There is always tomorrow. I always tell this to myself as well. There's always tomorrow. It's fine. I did the best that I could. I will try again tomorrow. Progress in your life is not a straight line. It is not like this to make progress. Progress will look like it is all over the place, and rest is not failure. Okay. When you rest, you're actually doing good for yourself and your brain feels relaxed, your nervous system feels regulated, and you're able to do more for yourself and you will be able to achieve a lot more as well. So all in all, I really hope that this video has allowed you to just breathe a little bit and really has given you habits that you can potentially put into your own life. And if it finally feels like you feel understood and seen, then I am so, so glad because like I said, you are not alone. I have dealt with this many, many times before. And I just want to remind you that being productive is not about pushing harder and doing your best to achieve every single goal. That's not what it is. It's about protecting your energy and it's really designing a life that works around your brain and learning how to understand your brain. You are so worthy of achieving all of your goals, of doing the things that your heart desires. Wallahi, you are so, so worthy of that and you will get that. Inshallah. So if you found this helpful, let me know in the comment which tip has been the hardest to really sit with. Yeah, I just want to remind you that you are doing a lot better than you think. I'm so, so proud of you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to always succeed, allow you to always be productive, to protect you guys. And yeah, I'm always keeping you guys in my du'as, genuinely. If you guys enjoyed this video, of course, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, love you guys. Bye.